Hey gardening friends, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. And today I want to share some tips with you on growing microgreens. Well, today I'm going to start at the very basics and teach you what to do. Okay, the first thing that you need to know is that there are some varieties that need a pre-soak period, and I have those right here in front of the bowls. Beets, sunflowers, and peas need a pre-soak period. And if you look at the back of our packets, it'll tell you how long. So this one says 12 to 24 hours. The reason why these do best with a pre-soak is that it softens the outer shell and it makes it so they can germinate faster and easier. So pre-soaking for these three varieties is really important. But over here, I have 6 varieties that do not need a pre-soak. So the broccoli, radish, the red cabbage, the cress, the kale, and the arugula. These you can just go ahead and plant straight up. But first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and pour each one of these into the bowl, and I'm gonna label them with the date and time I started the pre-soak. Okay, I've got these 3 that need the pre-soak in the water, and I've got them labeled with when we're starting them and the packets in front, although they're pretty self-explanatory. Now let's talk about starting ones that do not need a pre-soak. So let's plant some arugula. Okay, here's our arugula. Let's talk about how to grow the varieties that do not need a pre-soak. I highly recommend that you look at the back of the packet. As you can see, it tells you 11 grams of seed is enough for 35 square inches. And then it doesn't need a pre-soak, and it will need some blackout days, indirect light, and harvest in 8 to 12 days. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our growing medium ready in the tray. Here's our coconut core soil wafer. They're great for starting seeds. You could also use a seed starting mix or some potting soil if you have that on hand. These come in our kits, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. These are so fun to do. You pour about a cup, maybe a little more water on top. Sometimes I measure it, sometimes I don't. And then you wait for it to expand. It just takes 20, 30 seconds. And the water kind of shrinks up and the soil wafer expands. What we like about these coconut core wafers is that they're sustainable, and they are replenished as we use them naturally. So that's good. And add a tiny bit more water. And then we are gonna mix it up, and I'm gonna spread it out so it's about just a. Okay, I want to show you the difference in moisture level. This one versus this one. This one's a bit drier. I'm going to add a little bit more water to this one because this one is a good moisture level for sprinkling the seeds on and getting that seed to soil contact. So I'm going to add more water to a couple of these, and then we'll get started. Okay, this next step is really fun. I like to label the lids. So before I sprinkle the seed, so I know which variety, and then I'm going to use the whole packet of seed in the tray. So we want the microgreens to grow in nice and thick. And so I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle it. And as you can see, it almost covers the top of the soil. So that's what the cress looks like when it's sprinkled on. And here is the arugula. So you can see the seed is pretty thick. And if you want to even it out a little bit with your finger, you can. That gives it some good soil to seed contact. But now these are ready to, I'm going to put the lid on and just kind of push the sides down to hold it in place. And then I'll check them for moisture every day, just kind of maintenance. I'm not going to add a lot of water to them, but maybe just a little bit if they. Hi everyone. Today we're going to follow up on the microgreens that we started pre-soaking yesterday, and we're going to plant them. Here are the varieties that needed the pre-soak: the peas, the sunflowers, and the beets. They are ready to go. I've got the lids labeled. I'm going to drain the water off of them, and then we'll plant them here in the soil wafers have been expanded with water, so the trays are ready to go. I'm just going to spread them out so they are not all clumped together. These are a lot bigger, so they don't need as many seeds. And here are the beets. Gonna need 2 hands to spread these out and get all of them out of the bowl. Okay, all the pre-soaks are planted, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put the lids on and just check them every day for maintenance moisture. I don't really need to water them unless they start looking dry. Okay, so here we've got our microgreens all in the blackout period. They're planted. I wanted to clarify one thing. During the blackout period, they don't use a lot of water. So if you start with the soil moist, chances are they won't need much watering. You just don't want them to get dried out. So I call that maintenance moisture. But once the lids come off, they will be growing rapidly and they will definitely need to be watered almost every day. Okay, here is the cress. I took the lid off the cress and the arugula, which we planted yesterday. And if you remember, these seeds were much smaller and they weren't swollen. As you can see, they're kind of opening up, and you've got some little tiny sprouts starting to come out of the seeds. So that's exciting. Okay. We are all ready for our couple days in blackout period. I want to explain why blackout period is important. With microgreens, you're planting them really close together, and they're going to grow up close together, which means if they had soil on top of them, they would be kind of throwing soil up on top of each other as they come up, and they would be, covered in soil. And since we want to eat these plants when they're tiny, we want to keep the soil in the bottom. So we just, gently put the seeds on top of the soil, press it in. It also helps so that they don't have bacteria and fungus growing. And it mimics, the blackout period mimics what happens outside when you plant seeds in the ground. You typically cover them and they have a blackout period until they emerge from the soil. So that's what we're doing with the blackout period. It's just giving them the best environment to grow in.